listening to the Unleash Greatness podcast with your host, Jonathan Mitchell. The best in personal, emotional, spiritual, and business development.
Good morning, Tuesday, people, or it could be Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday night or whatever time of day you're listening to this. I just want to say thank you for listening in. It is I, Jonathan Mitchell, Unleash Greatness. For more of us, go to unleashg.com. For any programs or past podcasts or blog posts, that kind of stuff, it's all there. Today is Tuesday, MBA Musings Day, where I get to talk about some things in the MBA program I'm going through right now. And today's episode is sponsored by my dear friends at naturalmedicinemamas.com. They have a lot of advice and products on natural and alternative medicine for men, women, and children. So they have different things like things for flu or for colds or for anxiety, lots of alternative medicine options that do not have the weird side effects that some other things have that people suggest you use. So I totally suggest you go check that out. Again, today is Unleash Greatness MBA Musings Day. Let's kick it in gear and get going. All right, you guys. So today I've been thinking about what I can share today with the MBA program. So this last week, we finished up two classes, the statistics class and the leadership class as well. Had finals in both of them. So this last week I've been crazy busy studying for the finals. I've thought a lot about preparation, which I'll talk about that in a second, being prepared for things. And then lastly, for the leadership class, one of the last things we did before we took one of the finals, we had one of the hosts of the Women at Work podcast from the Harvard Business Review come on board and talk to us about just issues with women at work and what they're doing and just some findings they've had with gender-specific things at work, which I think is a very intriguing subject, especially because I'm a man. For those of you who don't know, I grew up with four sisters, so I'm very attuned to women issues because I got told about it every day growing up. And so I just want to talk about that for a second. Her name was Nicole Torres, way cool lady, really cool subjects and a lot of cool ideas and perspective. Opened my eyes to a lot of things regarding women. So first I just want to talk about just the theme of preparation. I know for myself, I can naturally, if I allow myself to, I will procrastinate like crazy to do stuff. The MBA program has helped me not procrastinate because if you do that in this program, especially when you work, because the program I'm going to is at nights and I work during the day being a sales trainer. And so if I wait and procrastinate putting off studying or anything else, I am like so behind the ball and things just do not go very well. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was just one thing I'm learning from the MBA program that's not a specific class, but it's more of a result from the MBA program itself. And that's being prepared, setting time apart to do things and making things a priority, being prepared. So before, in my undergrad, this was a long time ago. I'm not going to tell you when I did my undergrad because it was a long time ago. But before then, I would literally procrastinate everything. I'd study the night before for a final and I'd kind of do things kind of half-assed and just didn't do things very well. This time around, because I'm limited on time and I have a different mindset. Like I really want to learn. I'm not just going through to get the certificate of completion of the MBA program, but I really want to suck in as much information I can and understand the concepts being given to me. So one thing I've shifted for me that's helped a lot is that I am planning ahead of time to get things done. I know for some people out there, that's like, well, I do that already. But for me, that was an interesting and different concept to really think about what do I need to do on a every week basis to make sure I'm on top of the ball instead of trying to, catch up. The biggest thing I've seen that's a difference is that before I had a very reactionary response to mostly everything. I mean, at least with schoolwork, I'd get the assignment and then do something. I'd kind of be behind on what I was supposed to be doing. Now this time around, I'm finding I'm a lot more proactive. And just the difference between being proactive with getting things done and then reactive. I found that it's helped me in other areas, like with working out. If I'm able to be a little bit more proactive, so the night before I get my clothes out before and I make sure things are ready, making sure I know what I'm going to be eating during the week, so preparing my food in preparation of the week so I don't have to stress about it in the morning every morning. There's just different things to where I found that being prepared for life in general helps me be a lot more effective. So I'll tell you what, I'll apply some of the learnings I did from the leadership class. So I'm going to tell you what did work and what didn't work. So in the past, what didn't work is waiting last minute and making food in the morning right out of the gate, or forgetting it and have to buy food at work, which isn't always the most healthy, or that's just with food. Or there's working out where it's like, well, maybe I'll just fit in working out whenever I can instead of making it a priority and planning ahead of it. Or there's like meditation, to where I have a time and place now that I'm prepared, and I make sure I have meditation and prayer happen in a certain time and place. And then lastly is like just connecting with family. So for me, I've made it a priority to make sure I'm always connecting with my family members or friends and reaching out to them on the weekends or Sunday, or a time I can really connect and make sure I'm keeping in touch with people I care about. So my suggestion from my own experience is just look at your own life and think about, what is it you're being more reactive with, and then what can you make more proactive to get more things done in a much more effective way. So if you ever feel like you're always behind the game and you're always trying to play catch up, you're playing life in a reactive way instead of in a proactive way. So I would just consider that you look at the things in your life that you feel like you're behind the times, and then look at what can help you be ahead of the curve, whether that's making sure you get food done on Sundays ready for the week, or if you make sure you take time to do things ahead of time, like, for instance, setting clothes out so you can work out in the morning the night before. Just different things you can do to make sure you're ready to go for the week, for the day, and just get things done. Next up from there is just this conversation we had with Nicole Torres. She's an associate editor at Harvard Business Review. Hopefully I'll be able to get in touch with them and see if she'll even come on board and do an interview with me, which would be awesome. But it was eye-opening to hear about different stories around women at work and the disparity between how much women make versus how much men make. And not just, there's a lot of factors that goes into it, such as like, women sometimes have to go and take a break and go home and take care of kids a lot. I'm not saying that's what always happens, but that what has happened. Sometimes men do it, sometimes women do it, but there's a pause in their professional life that hurts them overall and hurts their earning power. And just how they said that just from the last 50 years, how far it's progressed, but how we're just not there yet. I would say, if it ever comes to anything, this is just my opinion, and because I grew up in a different way, so a lot of people I know have some racist thoughts, some people have some gender issues, some people have issues with different religions, different politics, different backgrounds, different nationalities. I mean, you can choose and literally pick anything and make sure that it's something that you will not associate with someone with because of whatever reason. For me, I grew up in a tire store where I worked with sometimes ex-cons that came out of jail, and some were Hispanic and some were African American and some were Native American and some were just Anglo-Saxon white Americans. And so I grew up since I was 10 working with a varied background of people. And then I went home and I was with women all the time at home. And again, I'm not saying this is bad. I'm not trying to say that I am better than anyone else. I'm just saying from my perspective, I never had the viewpoint, and my parents never taught me to think that I was better than anybody else for any reason. Literally, my parents are very Christian oriented, and they said that we are here to love everyone around us. It doesn't matter what race, gender, nationality, thoughts, politics, blah, 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 all that stuff. Our job is to literally love people. I leave the judgment of any kind to a higher power that knows better than I do what to judge. And it's taken me a long time to really learn that. But as I've gotten older, I define my relationships with people by my experience with them. So I don't care what gender, race, color, code, creed, nationality, politics, whatever. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about is the relationship I have with that individual to make sure it's something I can move forward with. So as an example, there are two individuals that I've had a professional relationship with in the last decade. I mean, I've had lots, but these are two that really stand out to me that show the difference between men and women, masculine and feminine energy, and just the difference between the two. So the first one is one of my professors in my undergrad. I actually went to Chicago and worked with at-risk youth during her program when I was in my undergrad. She was strong. She expected excellence. She was very professional. She would not let you slack off. She pushed you to your limits. And some would say she's intense and was not necessarily I don't want to say loving, because she was loving, but she wasn't like a cuddly, love you, give me a hug type person. She did give you hugs, but it was more of, let's get this crap done type individual. She pushed you to your limits, and I love that about her because she was a very strong and guided female leader. On the other side, with a male leader, just a couple of years ago, I worked with a guy at Franklin Covey. He was almost the exact opposite of her, but expected things in a different way. So he did still expect excellence, but he did it in such a soft, loving, kind, patient way. They're so differently extreme because if you just describe these two people, and if all I just described to you was just their personality traits, most people that I do this with would say, okay, the female sounds more like a man, and the man sounds more like a female because of their personality traits and how they treated me. It's interesting after listening to Nicole Torres that females have a harder time being that strong individual and leader because of the society norms and belief systems around what a woman should be. I think, especially after growing up with 4 very strong women, that females can be a strong leader. They can bask in their feminine energy and still be the person that we can look to for leadership. On the other side, I think that with men, like my guy at Franklin Covey, he was very loving, very kind. I felt like one of the first things I felt from him was just love and just how much he cared for me. Even though he was still professional, and he is a manly man. Like, he's 6'4". He's a hiker. Like, he's one of the guys who went out and he goes up into the mountains and helps to find people that are lost. Like, he's just this incredible individual, super successful. But yet his energy is a lot softer, a lot kinder, and a lot more loving, at least up front, kind of like a big bear. And not that the female professor was not loving, because I did feel like she was loving, but she was more of like abrupt and a little bit harder on the edges, but not in a bad way, but just a little more professional and just push you forward. Both of them inspired me, and both of them I felt like that even though they're different genders, different ages, different approaches, they were both effective because they helped me learn things in ways I wouldn't have before. So I would submit that if you are a female or a man listening into this, number one, for females, just know that you do have permission to be a strong leader, and there's ways to do it that you can really embody a feminine power and professionalism that we as men just cannot do. Females have the talents and abilities and skills that men don't have, and that's okay. It's okay that they don't have it. There's other times, though, I would suggest with men, there are aspects of the male belief system saying we're hard, we're professional, we're dorks, we're uncomfortable around women, we're either inappropriate with women. Like, there's all these beliefs around society with men, or like even if you watch men on TV, men are looked at as stupid and they need help from the women to decide anything they do, and it's just like pop society postures men as just not men. So it's okay to be strong as a man. It's okay to have that, but it's also okay to be loving and kind and patient and to take on both aspects. To me, when you're able to be a woman and be able to be truly embody the feminine nature, but also not be afraid to be strong, which most people think is not a feminine trait, which I would submit it's absolutely opposite of that. But to be strong and to be that leader, and the other side, being a man and being patient and kind and soft, and being willing to show your emotions, being willing to, mix the energies up and say, okay, it's okay for a man to be emotional. It's okay for a woman to be strong. It's okay for a man to be loving, and it's okay for a woman to be blunt. Like, there's all these oppositions that we haven't allowed to have happen, but I think that we should have permission to have. So anyone listening in, man, woman, whoever, I do believe you have the ability to shift and to create impact in a way that you haven't been able to before, if you're willing to push yourself past what you think you're supposed to be doing as a female or a male. Last thing I'm going to submit you with is, again, just a quick review of this whole podcast is just being prepared, taking time to be proactive instead of reactive, and then just your own self, whether you're a man or a woman, looking at your feminine nature or your masculine nature and being willing to accept and embrace all sides of yourself and to learn from the other gender and say, what is it that they're doing that I can learn and apply to myself, whether that means they're strong or soft or hard or professional or excellence or whatever it is. don't allow, and also I would say, don't allow your belief systems to hold you back from holding other people back from succeeding. As an example, like with men and women, like sometimes the feministic movement holds men back because they believe that we men have been in charge for so long, and so it's our time to take a step back. And there's other men who still believe that women are an inferior gender. The truth is that we're equal, and that there's different strengths and weaknesses on both sides, and we're here to learn and to grow with each other. I just want to say thank you so much for listening in, you guys. Grateful for you guys listening in. Again, this is kind of an odd MBA Musings session, but just grateful to be able to tap into it. For more, we're going to have more this week. Love to have you listen in. Again, go to unleashg.com, and we'll talk soon. Thanks so much.